guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 5 Weird Things That Swedes Do Don't Tell My Family About. Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of weird. I'm a little scared now, but let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
What's up, guys? So for the most part, being an American living in Sweden, like Americans and Swedes, we have a lot in common, but after having lived here for over a year now, I've noticed that there are some things that people in Sweden do that are just a little bit weird for me. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 weird things that Swedish people do. Now the first thing that I think is just a little bit weird is that a lot of times Swedes will avoid eye contact with their neighbors. Now this is different depending on where you live in Sweden and who your neighbors are, because I know some Swedes that have great relationships with their neighbors as well, but in a lot of cases Swedes actually, avoid their neighbors. And
ignore
here,
them.
I've lived in this place for like 15 months and I'm not really super close with any of our neighbors that live in this apartment complex. Like, sure, if I see them, I'll say hi to them.
Yeah.
But it's not like a lot of places in America where they have tight-knit communities with their neighbors and their people that live
I think that's like a suburbs thing.
close by to them. And this especially sticks out to me, not where I'm from, but like in the Midwest. People in the Midwest are like extremely friendly. Like when I go to visit my cousins in Nebraska, they know all their neighbors and they have neighborhood barbecues and parties together. And like if a family member from one family gets sick, all the people in the neighborhood will get together to help that person. And so that's a really, really cool vibe that people are so open and friendly in some of those communities. I would say in Sweden, this pretty much is not the case. Typically, the neighbors, they don't go out of their way to talk to each other a whole lot. And, they actually kind of avoid each other.
This is actually pretty funny.
What are you doing, by the way?
Making sure there's no neighbor outside.
And you think that's normal?
Okay, now.
It's not that Swedes are rude, it's just a different culture here. They do keep to themselves a lot more, and that can take some getting used to from people who come from different cultures where people are a lot more open.
Is that the whole point of having neighbors, is to meet them?
No, the whole point of having neighbors is to fill the other apartments in the building.
Oh, here we go. Hello, my name is Bruce, and this is my girlfriend Emma. We just, I moved into the building.
He's like, bye, shut up.
We'll see you around. I think we're in floor 2.
That was rude, I think.
The second weird thing that Swedes do is put ketchup on their pasta. Now, I gotta admit, I'm actually guilty of this now that I've lived here for 15 months. Like, I've done this several times now.
Okay.
I'm kind of used to it. Like,
yes, I think I've done this before. Yes, it would give an Italian person an aneurysm, but I don't think it's that bad actually.
They'll make macaroni, noodles, and meatballs and have ketchup there, but don't tell my Italian grandparents that I do this, because I think they would have a fit if they knew that I was eating ketchup with pasta. The first few times I saw this, I thought it was extremely weird and pretty
disgusting.
Disrespectful to the pasta, to be honest.
Somebody touch my spaghetti!
Growing up with amazing Italian food back at home, like, it is kind of weird to me still, but it is kind of convenient if you want a quick meal. It works, and it is just something that they do in Sweden. Now, while we're on the topic of food, a few other things that Swedes do that I just think is a little bit weird is they will use like a fork and a knife for everything, whether they're eating pizza, hamburgers. I've seen people several times eat their hamburgers with a fork and knife. Now, this I've never seen in America. And also, like, when you buy pizza in America, it usually comes pre-sliced, where in Sweden, a lot of times people will cut their pizza with a fork and a knife.
It's not pre-sliced?
Or if you make pizza at home, sometimes they'll even use like regular scissors to cut their pizza. I've never even seen that before. In America, pretty much we only use like pizza slicers, and everything gets pre-sliced. If you were at a restaurant or something and you order a pizza, it pretty much always comes sliced, so it's easy to just grab it.
We're not savages,
slice by slice. And also to that point, I noticed that people don't really eat food when they're on the go as much as they do in America either. I think a lot of that has to go back to like the fika culture that they have in Sweden, where people like to take a break, relax, and sit down and enjoy a coffee or a snack or whatever it is they're going to be actually eating. And a lot of times in America, people are so on the go and in a rush to go to the next place and do the next thing and just so busy all the time that it's not uncommon to see people eating while they're walking down the street. And I also do this in Sweden. I'll just buy a protein bar on the go and eat it. You see people in the movies that will be in New York and they go eat a hot dog from the local hot dog stand and they're just eating it on their way to the next meeting or something. I mean, that's just kind of how it is in America. There's a lot of like takeout food, you know, fast food on the go, and you can just kind of eat on the run. Whereas in Sweden, people relax a little bit more, and maybe that is related to like the fork and knife culture, because when you're on the go, you can't really eat with a fork and knife. I mean, that'd be really tough. Have my little plate and cutting while I'm like, nah, I just don't think that's gonna work. The fourth thing that strikes me a little bit odd about Sweden is that a lot of times people in Sweden will actually have kids before they get married. And no, I'm not talking about like on accident. A lot of times people will just do this, and it's not something weird here in Sweden, where in America this is really uncommon for people to start a family before being in a marriage. But here in Sweden,
I'm sorry, I don't think that's uncommon in this day and age, but I think it just depends on the area probably.
Marriage isn't as big of a deal as it is in America. Actually, like if I were to marry a Swedish girl, it wouldn't have any repercussions for my permits and things like that. Basically in Sweden, you can become a sambo, which just means like you're a registered partner living with the other person. And basically in the eyes of the government and the migration office, being a sambo is just the same as being married. So like you don't even have to be married to get all the same benefits basically as being a sambo. So I think in general, people in Sweden get married a lot later than they do in America. Like I've got friends in America who are already getting married, and in Sweden, people wait a lot longer. They'll wait till their late 20s, early 30s a lot of times to actually get married, which is a big...
It just depends on where you're from. In the South, it's pretty common for people to get married very early, or from like religious communities. But I think in the city and probably like in other places, it's normal to see like people in their 30s like unmarried.
Difference in the culture, and I think that's totally fine. Like I myself personally am not looking to get married for quite a long time. I have a lot of goals and things that I want to accomplish before starting a family. But in America, things kind of happen in a certain order a lot of times. Like you meet a girl, you settle down, you get a good job, you get married, and then you look into having kids and starting a family. Where here in Sweden, because marriage isn't as big of a deal, sometimes you'll just be with a person for a long time and decide that, hey, you want to have kids. And it's not necessarily weird to have kids before marriage, which in America, that's not common at all. And the last thing that I think is just a little bit weird here in Sweden is the TV tax that they have. In Sweden, if you own a TV, people will actually come to your house and see if you have a TV. And then if you do have a TV, you actually have to pay a special additional tax on it. And now that we're living in 2018, almost 2019, that sounds crazy to say. I feel like 99% of people are gonna have TVs. So why not just tax everybody? I think it's just kind of weird that people have to like, come to your door and check if you have a TV or not. And even if you don't have a TV, I mean, in my personal situation, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I've got an iPad, I've got an iPhone, I've got a laptop, and I'm connected in this digital world just like everybody else. I think it's kind of odd to have people calling you up and coming to your house to see if you have a TV, because at the end of the day, does it really matter if you have a TV or not, as long as you're connected some way? I mean, pretty much everybody's connected in some way. Yeah. So I just think that one is a little bit weird as well, especially
not a little bit, a lot.
It has so many different taxes and different rules. Why not just make it uniform? So with that being said, guys, those are 5 things that I think are a little bit weird about living in Sweden and Swedish people in general. If you have not subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video.
Okay, yeah, I do agree. A lot of things I would agree they're pretty strange. The TV thing, I do not get it. Why? Like, it's a tax, but why? Like, why TVs in particular? Like, wouldn't you? Because if it's an electronic, like, an electronic device situation, wouldn't you tax like computers, tablets, whatever, phones, which I think sounds crazy to say, because it's like he said, like it's in, within this modern world, everyone owns at least like one of the previous one, like you own either or several like tablets, computers, phones, whatever. So, just tax everyone equally because everyone is going to own something. But why the TV in particular? Is it related? I'm wondering if it's related to maybe not like an old law, an old situation before like the internet was sort of like widespread. And because I do really think, like, actually, you know what? I'm like thinking about this through. I think in this, it's normal. Obviously, everyone owns a TV. Well, almost everyone owns a TV. But I think a lot of people do not own a TV right now, again, in this day and age. Because because people have, like, laptops, they have computers. So a lot of people think, I think they're maybe not in families, but I think some people just do not own, like, an actual TV because they watch everything, like, on their laptops. So if you're like watching films or you're watching like a show, like you're gonna watch this on a computer and you're not gonna be watching this on a TV. The whole like setup of like you have a TV on your living room, which I think is like probably like the classic place where you would put a TV. But I think it's actually not that weird. Like I think maybe a bunch of years ago, I think if someone didn't own a TV, that would be seen as like really strange. Like, what do you mean you don't own a TV? That's weird. Like, what do you do with your time? Unless like it's very specific like circumstances of like, I don't know, I do not own a TV because I'm like, I don't know, I like to read and I don't know, write. Like I have other hobbies, which a little pretentious. I don't know, but I think would be seen as a little weirder. But right now, if someone, like, if I were to ask someone, hey, do you own a TV in your house? And, that person would tell me, like, no, I do not. I wouldn't think that's weird necessarily. I think my first, like, instinct would be to, like, oh, that's strange. But I think, no, actually, if I think about this properly, I think a lot of people actually do not own a TV. Like, it's quite normal, I think. It's like, yeah, sure, like, not everyone has to own a TV. Because, again, they watch stuff on their laptops. So I'm wondering if it's a thing about, a bygone era of like people just they have to own TVs, and it was related again before like the internet and stuff, because they had the actual traditional sort of like TV without like satellite cable, whatever, like they had. I do not even like, I don't know, just like traditional sort of like TV stations, and probably it was related to that. I'm wondering if that's the case, and maybe like they didn't got rid of the tax. like those are the origins, but then life moved on, and life now these days is different, that someone forgot to like put this to bring this up at parliament, or with a politician, and they just stay there, and it's like, oh yeah, right, like we should probably get rid of this law, but no one, like we have other priorities and people do not care. So I'm wondering if it's because of that, and also like where like, is it a tax because of like what? Because of like the actual like, oh, because you are consuming more electricity? Is that it? Like, again, I would love to know like the logistics behind this. Again, because it's like, no, we have to fund the TV, I don't know, own like the TV stations that are owned by the government or something, like where you're like they actually have to like play PCAs or something. I don't know. We'd love to know the logistics behind it all. The kids before marriage and marriage in general, like I think it was a very interesting perspective, but I think it just depends on, again, it's just like in this modern world, I think like everyone like does their own thing, so I wouldn't necessarily think it's weird to go one way or the other, just because again, everyone like this is like a modern time, so everyone just like goes along with whatever it is that they're choosing for their lives. So if you choose to like get married very early and having kids before marriage, after marriage, and like that's your life, well, yeah, sure, I don't think that's weird. And if you choose to have like, oh, I'm gonna have kids, later on, and we're not gonna get married, it's like, okay, well, that's okay. Like, I don't know, I don't think it's weird either way. Actually, the only thing I would find a little strange is people getting married or having kids like really, really young, as in like probably early 20s. I think that's young, right? Like before 25 probably, let's say 25 as a cutout. I think like that's a little, wow, that's quite young, right? But again, that's probably my perspective. But I do know that in some particular areas, especially like rural areas and in the southern United States, and in some communities, that's the normal. So that's the normal baseline. So again, I would find it a little like strange, like a very old timey thing. Like, oh, people are still doing that, like apparently. But again, that's just me. Although I know like logistically, I know that it occurs and it's super normal in some communities. And again, especially like, oh, religious people, yeah, sure, you know, if you're a religious person, probably this is really important for you, and you're obviously gonna get married like when you're like 20, because I think probably a lot of religions, actually not all religions, but I think is it a Catholic? No, it's a Christian thing, I think. So again, maybe it just depends, but I think like it brings me back to the thing, like everyone has their own particularities and everyone has their own like specific sort of like situations. So I wouldn't necessarily think like it's weird. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, for you it's normal because this is like your baseline, and you know where you live, and you know how you grew up or whatever. So you know it's like, okay, it's fine. The fork and knife, I think that's like a very interesting like perspective. Yes, I do think it's also like he said, yes, because if it's a culture that's really into like, let's sit down and enjoy, and it's very like, they practice a lot of like mindfulness, I think. Maybe not in the sense of like we're practicing mindfulness, but just, you know, that's actually like they are practicing whether or not they sort of like they want it or not. So it is a little bit of that, of just, you know, because we have to be in the now, and in like, if this is what we're doing right now, we're sitting down and eating, this is what we're doing. Like, we're not focusing on other things, which I find it very good, actually. More people should definitely do that, because I think if you're constantly like living like, oh, I live in a hurry, I'm constantly in a hurry, and in the hubbub of it all, I think it enjoys you to like, it's probably at least to a more stressful life, and you probably like enjoy life and like the little things a little bit less, which sadly that's the case for like a lot of American people, because again, everything has to be like on the go, and again, it's really like there's like the work-life balance situation, like it's quite bad usually. So I do think I like that they're like, no, we're sitting down and having like, we're having dinner, we're having this, and we're not constantly like grabbing things to go, because we have to like be somewhere, and you have to like, oh yes, you know, I'm in a hurry, and you know, I have to like, I only have like, I don't know, 15 minutes to grab lunch, and then I have to like go back to the office or whatever, or I have to like run a million errands, so I have to like, you know, get something, I'm hungry, and I have to like grab my things and go. So I do really think it's interesting, the whole like burger and pizza with a fork and knife. I understand, again, in my mind, I know that it's weird, right? A little, yes, sure. You know, if I'm at a restaurant, and I would, well, no, I'm not judging people like for their choices and for their meals, you know, out in public. But I think I would be, yes, yeah, I think visually, yes, it looks a little weird. But again, I do think I understand it. I'm like, yes, you know what, a burger, yes, eating a burger with a fork and knife. Weird, right? Yes, sure it is, but if I think about it, like, it's like, oh, but actually that's kind of like genius. Yeah, you're not getting your hands dirty. So I actually like, I don't think that's weird. It's like, yeah, sure, like, yeah, and again, same with pizza, like, it's very messy. So yes, if I'm like grabbing a fork and knife, which I think I've eaten pizza like with a fork and knife in public, probably not, but you know, if you're at home. Yeah, sure. I think it would be a little strange if you're like at a pizza place, or just, you know, grabbing like a slice of pizza, you know, all those like, again, in just, you know, in the street. You're not asking for a fork and knife, because people are probably gonna look at you weird. But if you're at home, yeah, sure. Again, I don't want to get my hands dirty, so it makes sense. But maybe that goes along with the whole like, oh, do like Swedish people, do they have like pizza slices, you know, on the street? Like, do they sell those? Or is it like, no, they do not sell like pizza slices? Because I'm a little concerned, which I do find that's the part that I actually find weird. It's not cut, so it's just that you have like a whole pizza just sort of like there, you know, it's not like pre-sliced. That's a little strange. And the fact that they cut it with scissors, that's a little, that I would think that's a little strange as well. But I think it just depends. Maybe it's just like an individual pizza. I think they sell those, I think, in places. I think I've seen those in Italy and other places. But it's more like a restaurant thing. Like, they give you like, if it's an individual pizza, like and it's very like in fancy places, not in like a dollar store and like dollar store places. I'm talking about like actual like fancier restaurants. I think they'll give you, if you ask for like an individual pizza and you order that, it's just sort of like it's not pre-sliced, right? It's just like a little pizza, and it has like all the toppings and stuff. I'm thinking like the actual one that comes like pre-sliced is the one you actually order, like you grab for takeout, or just the actual sort of like less fancy places. So maybe I'm thinking about this. So maybe they do not have those kind of places over there, and everything's a little bit fancier. So maybe that's why they don't come pre-cut. Even if you ask for like, oh, I'm asking for delivery or takeout, asking like, I don't know, like a Pizza Hut or Domino's or something, like do those come pre-sliced? You know, maybe do things work over there, like over there they do things different? I don't know, would love to know. And the ketchup on the pasta, yes, I do think I agree with him. He's like, I know that it sounds disgusting, like when you first hear about this, it's like, oh my god, that's disgusting. Yes, it sounds disgusting, I know. And again, like he said, you know, Italian people would be like, what are you doing? Like, it would give them nightmares. But it's sort of like, don't knock it until you try it. Would you go and you have pasta with ketchup every single day of your life? Probably not. But he said, if you're in a pinch and you know you're in a dire circumstances, ask for like dire measures. So if you're having a pinch and you know I'm gonna have pasta, I think, well, maybe just grab a little ketchup. Which again, maybe do not tell Italian people about this, because they'll stone you to death. But it's not that bad as it sounds. I'm just gonna put it out there, because I know it sounds disgusting. Trust me. I'm like, yes, I do know. Like, if just like saying the words, I know that it sounds disgusting. But once you try it, it's actually not that bad, because it's like, yes, it's ketchup. It's still tomatoes, right? So it's tomatoes, and it's like a tomato sauce. It's like, is it the same? Not really, but it's similar, sort of like similar. And actually, I think ketchup is delicious. Like, who doesn't love ketchup on things? Like, you can put ketchup on so many things, and it's good. So again, it's one of those things of like, maybe you wouldn't do it every day and do not tell traditional like Italians or something, but is it weird? Maybe a little. Yes, do not go around and say this, but as a culture, is it weird that everyone does this over there, or a lot of people do this over there in Sweden? It is a little weird, I think. Not that some individuals like do this, because like I mentioned, it's not that weird, it's actually good. But the fact that they have it as a culture, I'm like, oh, maybe that's a little concerning, right? Like, it's a little concerning just because of like, you can't get maybe like a decent like pasta sauce over there. Is that why they're resorting to like ketchup? Because like I said, maybe on an emergency, yeah, sure, it's not bad. But like if you're having like, oh, I'm craving that actual pasta, like please get either grab it like they have like so many varieties like on the market these days. And even maybe they do not get we don't really get like the good quality like pasta sauces. Maybe just like do it yourself. It's really not that hard. Or maybe it is actually. Maybe they can get tomatoes over there, because like I don't know what's the tomato situation over like they're so up north that maybe like they can't grow tomatoes. Maybe tomatoes are scarce. I don't know. Maybe that's why actually they have to like resort to ketchup. I don't know. We'd love to know. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.